In a world where information seems to travel at the speed of light and traffic at a snail's pace, where the agenda of those at the helm doesn't always reflect the pressures on the streets, where the rubber hits the road, where there's queue of issues needing to be interrogated in the name of speaking truth to power.
Welcome to a place at the table,
where we set the agenda,
table the issues that matter to you,
and invite you to take a seat at the table.
Welcome to a place at the table. I'll be uncovering how our governors are getting away with Blue Mother. You've come at a good time, Sheta.
I certainly have, and I look forward to taking a bite out of this one. I've come to issue a stark warning. Nigeria is biting more than it can chew, and our reputation is in shreds. No thanks to the law.
That's interesting, Sheta. I hear the alarm bells, and I'm saying, don't let Nigeria happen to you. Embrace some high agency and take some unhinged action today.
High agency, unhinged action. Sounds like we're about to be challenged big time. I'll add to that. Please be sure to do some due diligence in advance. I'll be speaking on Nigerian jollof rice and engineering.
Wow, Maka, I think I can guess what these two have in common. Well, I'm turning to those who have the answers and I'm saying, what's wrong with the word mama?
People are acting like they can know mama. Shout out to the Black Eyed Peas, right? In an age where fake is the new real, perhaps Zuma's challenge is setting the tone. It's time to follow the roadmap and lay hold on some high agency at the table. The last time I checked, Nigeria runs a federal system where powers are constitutionally shared between the federal, state, and the local government. Constitution's second schedule makes it clear. The exclusive list for the federal government, which covers defense, security, foreign affairs, customs, aviation, currency. And then concurrent list for shared responsibilities that covers education, healthcare, agriculture, and a lot more. On paper, the revenue formula looks tilted in favor of the federal government. 52.68% to the federal government, 26.72% to states, and 20.6% to local government. But in reality, net allocations tell a different story. With 13% derivation, VAT distribution skewed in favor of states and local governments, and statutory deductions, more money actually flows to the state than to the center. The numbers are staggering. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, between January 2011 and May 2025, Nigeria shared over 110 trillion across all tiers. Of that, 69 trillion, representing 63%, went to states and local government, while federal government received 37%. Broken down by geopolitical zones, the North Central received 10.2 trillion, the Northeast received 8.8 trillion, Northwest 13.1 trillion, Southeast 7.3 trillion, South-South 18.2 trillion, and the Southwest 11.5 trillion. No state received anything less than 1 trillion. So here is the uncomfortable truth. While the public lashes out at Abuja, the real custodians of resources are the governors. They control state allocations and local government allocations via the joint local government account. They collect your personal income tax, and 85% of VAT, soon to be 90%, goes to them. For every 1,000 naira shared, how many classrooms were built? How much was used to provide clean water? How many hospitals were built or remodeled? How much was spent to drive economic growth? The governors, I dare say, are getting away with Blue Mother, and we, the citizens, are their accomplices through silence. We rage against the FG, but ignore the failings in our backyard. Accountability should not stop in Abuja. It must extend to the states where lives are most directly impacted. The tools to demand answers exist. Reports like BudgIT State of State analysis provides the data. What is missing is the will. If we don't ask hard questions, governors will continue to take the citizens for a ride because they know nothing will happen. It's time to prove them wrong. Zuma.
You know, the first thing that stood out to me is the fact that one will think there is a huge difference between the state and local government allocation. And this explains why a lot of state governments are so bent on holding on to the local government funds. And also why there's not a lot of development happening at the local government level. An average Nigerian does not understand the separation of roles and responsibilities across the 3 tiers of government. I was talking to someone recently, and she was like, oh, this road is so bad. I don't know what Sanwo-Olu is doing. I was like, okay, you think it's Sanwo-Olu that will come and do your streets road? Did it occur to you that this is a local government function? And then she was like, oh, she literally doesn't understand. Yes, I agree with you. The state governors, they are getting away with not just blue, also red model. Like, it's, nobody is calling them out. In the past 1-2 years, right, they've been getting a lot of money, and we haven't been seeing commensurate impact at the grassroots level. Again, you guys need to do significantly more.
Well, there's this risk of all of us agreeing to this, because in short, it is largely very true. But I want to throw a bit of a curveball here. There's something about us not forgetting our history. Nigeria has not moved too far from the mindset that we had when we had military rule. And remember that military rule was command and control, very top down. Yeah. So that is the mindset that all of us still have. And then there's also a second thing about Nigeria not yet being a nation, but in a country of nations. So for example, many times, despite the fact that I pay taxes in Lagos, if I want to talk about Lagos matter, they will say, go back to Anambra. We actually need to come to grips with that. Because your state government, really, it's not the state government of where your ancestors came down from the trees. Your state government is where you live and pay taxes, where you reside, where you contribute. And that is the key thing. And as long as we have this ethnic politics that is dividing everybody, we will not have that sense of ownership for us to hold certain levels of government to account. But having said that, I want to draw attention to a survey that my organization did before the 2023 elections. What we found was that when it came to federal issues, especially at the presidential level, 100% of the respondents had responses, knew what they wanted to talk about. But when it came to governors, only 30%. That's a problem. Also legislative. For legislative, it was only 16%. So we're not even going to talk about local government because, okay, let me just say it was 6%. Wow. So Nigerians, and so what you've chosen as a topic is very important because that advocacy needs to start and needs to be sustained. But so when you said, is it the will that is missing, I'll disagree with you there. It's missing information. And I think I think a good part of information is the ability to also tell when certain state governments or local governments are doing good work. So for example, the LGA chairman in Maryland is currently resurfacing roads within various estates in Maryland. We have to call it out and say, okay, well done. You understand? At the same time, when we have governors that are not doing good work, Charlie, I'm looking at you, then we should be able to call them out and say, guy, sit up.
I mean, the information you gave is eye-opening, to be frank with you, and I do agree that we should call the state governors out more. But the issue of, if I'm advocating even for this, like a local government to do more, which one? Even states, which state should I be advocating for? Should it be the state of origin I fill on my forms, Anambra, where I do not live? Or should it be the one where I live and I'm directly affected on a daily basis? You know, if every form I fill, the local government I'm filling, well, the important forms is not my address, but where my state of origin is. How do I remember what my local government is, the one where I live currently? So there are those challenges. I think we need to maybe have uniformity in terms of how we're saying things are distributed in a way that the public also understands. And we're saying this is the unit of government, which the lowest unit is actually the local government. But it doesn't appear that way in anything else. So the question is, who is going to change that? Who is going to make it apparent? I guess that's us. But where do we start from? That would be with the information, breaking it down, and deciding which state is the state you're focusing on, your state of origin or your state of residence.
As long as the citizens are not aware of their rights, they can ask questions. I was asking today about the disbursement of funds to poor households, and I was asking, how do we verify this? 300 and something billion has been transferred. How do we verify this? Like, what is the process for us to say, okay, there's a dashboard, or there's a platform where we can go and say, okay, this particular family received this, right? So you can't just come and just give us numbers and say, okay, we should just take it, right? And I think I've also said it on this table before. One of my advocates is the fact that everybody focuses on the presidency, and I think Tacheta kind of explained why that is. Everybody, once it's during an election, people vote for the president and they vote for the parties under the president, and then the same thinking in which they vote is the same thing that they use to, demand accountability, which is president. And the governors are hiding behind that. Like Zuma said, they've received so much money for the past 2 years, and we can't see anything. My question now is apart from the people holding them accountable, which is not going to happen because they have no idea, what is the role of the federal government that is releasing these funds to make sure that these funds are actually getting to the people?
But what he's saying, the federal government can actually take it on itself to also say, hey, the hit is on us, but this is the money that, in a more public way, that's going to your different states.
We have legal precedents,
chase them up.
We have legal precedents. The federal government can't do that much. I mean, during the Jonathan government, the governors forum, which used to be very powerful, actually sued the federal government when Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala tried to
keep some money aside,
and then enforce accountability. So constitutionally, for those who know me, I'm not a fan of the 1999 Constitution because that's Decree 28 of 1998. It's not a constitution that has properly taken into account our realities and our proclivities.
A friend of mine sent me a message he got from his council in the UK that broke down for every £1,000 they received, how they spent it. They spent it on childcare, infrastructure, street lights. They broke it down. And he was asking, do we have similar in Nigeria? And I started laughing.
What you said speaks to our culture. I once was the president of a women's association, like in the church, a women's group. And when I tried to demand accountability from the past financial secretary, she resigned and says,
how
why
dare you?
Yes. Yes, now how can you, be asking me to give accounts? That means you're saying that you are suspecting that I stole. Yeah, so that's culture of being accountable when you're a public servant is really not there.
Every day for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. Presumes that the owners are vigilant and ready to reclaim what belongs to them.
To demand accountability, you need the watchmen.
Yeah.
And what happens when the watchmen are the reason we are being laid bare to ridicule? Because again, that's another problem. The law is something that is very important, and I must issue again a stark warning. The international community is watching us, and Nigeria's reputation, Nigeria's pretty poor reputation, is being critically damaged by a deepening rule of law crisis. Now, consider this. The President lifted the state of emergency in Rivers State. The Supreme Court, for 6 months, did not sit on it. Contrast it with the scandal, the aviation scandal involving Kwam and Comfort Emmanson. These things project an image of a country where justice is a function of wealth and status, not an immutable principle. The Kwam incident, where serious aviation safety violations were met with startling leniency, was scrutinized by international bodies. The International Civil Aviation Organization noted that such offenses constitute a severe global threat, and Nigeria's response was a clear distortion of universal safety principles. This is a direct cause that imperils our aviation sector's credibility. It suggests to everybody that safety protocols in Nigeria are negotiable for the connected. And when you contrast it with the immediate jailing of Ms. Emmanson for a lesser offense, there's a jarring narrative of two-tier justice in Nigeria. And the saddest part of it, it was reported by foreign media. So, which means that their embassies here will take notes and send reports. Then there's the Supreme Court's inertia in Rivers. It has basically created a perception of a fractured legal system. And it is a vital test of judicial independence, constitutional governance, and they are all being monitored by human rights organizations, legal experts across the world. The Supreme Court's failure to act will be interpreted nationally and internationally as a strategic retreat, signaling that the judiciary has been intimidated and is complicit in executive overreach. Collectively, when you think of the Supreme Court on Rivers, Kwam 1, Kwam 2, as some people choose to call Ms. Emmanson, what it tells the world is that Nigeria is governed by patronage and not by principle. This will have an effect on vital foreign investments because businesses require a predictable and transparent legal system. It will cripple our regional leadership. It will invite heightened scrutiny from international partners. And this heightened scrutiny is not just for Nigeria, but also for Nigerians. The world is forming a clear and damaging conclusion that in Nigeria, impunity reigns for the powerful, and the law is not a shield for all Nigerians, but a tool for select few. We all need to act to restore rule of law before this damaging perception becomes an irreversible reality.
Our biggest problem in this country is not the executive or the legislative, it is the judiciary, because they are supposed to be the one to hold both accountable. And if that is compromised, then we're a failed nation. And we can see it clearly, it's happening. Like, if when I have kids and they say they want to be lawyers, I said I probably give it to them abroad. I don't want to go on this in America or in the UK. But Nigeria, it's a waste of time. What is the purpose of being a lawyer? What do you get out of that?
To become a son.
I mean, when you look at it, these are people who the people are supposed to rely on, and they are fully compromised. When you look at a situation where, for example, I had a situation where someone tried to take my land, and I was thinking about it. I brought in lawyers, and when they started giving me the process and the things that are going to happen, I'm like, are you guys kidding me? It's clear. This is like every single documentation is available. Why can't this go through the court process and end in less than 3 months? But you know one thing that actually shocked me? That the government are trying to do for over 20 years, and in less than 3 months it happened. Local government autonomy. That happened in 3 months. So your case is pretty clear.
Again, it actually makes your points.
Yeah.
Or it actually makes the points.
Your point, yeah.
Local government autonomy happens very quickly because it serves certain interests.
Yeah.
Exactly. So why is it that we have a system that only benefit, like you said, only benefit very few people, and how can Nigerians trust that kind of system? And so as long as we can't trust the system, then there's nothing we can do. And like you said, the core thing that you said is it affects investment. And as long as the private sector cannot predict, the way things will happen, then you can't come and put your money there.
I'm going to start by saying that I don't think we have a rule of law problem. We have a rule of law enforcement and ownership problem. I would also like to start by congratulating Fubara on being reinstated. The Supreme Court itself, well, they took their time, right? And then
But they still haven't sat on it.
They're still taking their time, But then again, he's back. The suspension has been served, and it's more of a legal and constitutional loophole that got exploited. And this is not the first time this is happening, and I am sure it's still going to happen again, unless we go back to that constitution that you don't like, and make a lot of amendments. Rule of law exists, ownership and enforcement is a suggestion. And that is what the issue would deal with across all over the country, across all the sectors. For Kwam 1, how come no one made effort to get him arrested? Because again, someone needs to take ownership for that. This person has done something wrong to me. The airline could have gotten him arrested, but they chose not to. For Kwam 2, she got arrested by Ibom. So again, that is also not a judicial inefficiency, but an ownership gap. So we as individuals and also as organizations, we need to be sure, and we need to just not say, oh, the law doesn't work. Have we even tried to make it work? Have we even made effort? The law is not just going to arbitrarily come and take, someone needs to initiate a complaint. And beyond that, the system is inefficient. But when it is graced, it becomes more efficient. But it also shouldn't be that way.
One of the very first advocacies I did on a place at the table was titled Dysfunction Nigeria Limited. Mm-hmm. And it talks about how we as a nation, We love our chaos. We adore our dysfunction. It is who we are. We like to apply what I would call our anyhowness, the do you know who I am mentality. And it fits into the Nigerian psyche, which is what you saw playing out with the Kwam 1 and Kwam 2 issue. The Kwam 1 issue was even a more serious issue because it spoke to terrorism. In reality, when you look at the application of the rules. Okay, but then here is an individual who is very, very close to the president, who created a political problem for the Ministry of Aviation. Okay, political problem. How do you resolve his case? And then came Kwam 2 that helped them resolve that problem. Because Kwam 2's issue was what they relied on to essentially give Kwam 1 a brand ambassador, whatever thing they did. And what it tells you quite clearly is that we're a nation where if you don't have access, you're nobody. Mm-hmm. And you have this situation where if you can lay claim to knowing somebody at high office and all that, that's all you need to do. They will bend the rule, they will shape the law, they will even introduce a new law just to be able to give you a soft landing. And that's what we saw in practice. And to be honest with you, I was speaking to a friend of mine, a lawyer, by the way, and she was ashamed. I mean, she was speaking to me from Canada, and she said she looked at the whole thing and she felt shame as a Nigerian.
You talked about suggestion, that this thing is like we're suggesting that Nigeria, the rule of law is available only to, like the justice is available to a select few. It's not a suggestion. We know that this is the country that we live in. We see it every day. And perhaps that you're at the airport, you get offered to shunt the queue, and sometimes you might unwittingly just go ahead and do it without thinking about the implication that people are standing in line. There's so many things where people come to and say, Oga, come forward, Madam, come forward, and you do those things. That thing is the same thing as what you're talking about, where there's something that there's a rule or there's a law that applies to everyone. Yeah. And for some reason, because of your privilege, you are afforded the opportunity
to break it.
Yeah, step on other people, over other people and get that. The question is, do you actually say no? I think we should start from there. Because if we don't start from there, we are hypocrites. That's the truth. Then the second thing is, when somebody's fighting against overreach or someone abusing the law, be the second man. Don't make them look like a fool. If somebody has the courage to stand up, you should join your voice. Because that's the next thing that is such a big problem. Some people come out and they begin to scream against injustice and they look like they're mad because nobody else is talking.
Sounding the alarm is not being an alarmist. It's saying that there's still time to put things right, especially for rule of law, and there's an opportunity to take initiative and seize the day.
Yes, indeed, Twitter. We are all about empowering others, and there are tales of courage, ownership, and audacity to serve as inspiration. What's the most unhinged thing you've done to get ahead? One ex-user, Oluwatosin Olachende, tweeted that question. She didn't know she would be unleashing a wave of stories that reveal the fundamental secrets of success. The people who win are the ones who dare to act. The responses showed that the most extraordinary journeys are fueled not by recklessness, but by having high agency. But then, what is high agency? This is taking ownership of your destiny and not seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances. It is the audacity to stare into the face of uncertainty and take action anyway. It is the wisdom to see failure not as a gravestone, but as data for improved decision making. The responses to Tosin's post showed courage, ownership, and audacity. From the rejected applicant who emailed the recruiter asking for a chance to prove himself on the job, to the professional who walked away from a safe, secure job to take a bet on their own potential. These aren't just unhinged stories. There are stories that show people being active participants in their own lives and aggressively choosing their desired outcomes. Look around you. The world does not hand out trophies for patiently waiting. It doesn't celebrate those watching from the sidelines. It only rewards the gladiators in the arena, the ones who dare to play, and the ones who are brave and bold. Every single action you take, every risk you embrace, is a vote you cast for the future you desire. So I ask you, are you content being a spectator in the stadium of your own life? Or are you ready to start taking action towards your dreams and build the future you crave with your own hands? The decision lies with you. Every action you choose either takes you closer to your outcomes or takes you further from them. So ask yourself, what unhinged action am I taking this week?
Because I have a story where everything that I have built over the years, I built from the same environment. I didn't come from a wealthy family, right? But I've gone ahead and I've built systems that have empowered hundreds of thousands of people. And with all of that, it taught me one thing, which I think, if everybody understands that, the only reason why you will not be successful will be the decisions that you're making. And it comes to just one thing, is the fact that it doesn't matter where you are or where you're from. If you find something, anything, and you're willing to be consistent, and you're willing to show up every single day, it doesn't matter where you are or where you're from, you would succeed. I have two examples. I used to say this to people. I'm like, if you take a cardboard paper and you say, I am here, before you know it, one brand will say, slap this guy endorsement. It's that simple. There's this guy I've been watching for a long time on social media. He's a basketballer. I think he's from Kenya or Congo. He trains in a slum. He uses like tires, wheelbarrows. He will tie himself in a tree. And recently, I just saw a video of him training with LeBron James' coach in America. His whole life has changed because he wakes up every morning, he was consistent. This guy was doing it for over 5-10 years. He shows up every day, do videos and post online. So there's no excuse. Yes, the government has a role to play. Yes, yes, the environment is not conducive. But as long as you're willing to show up, that's one, and you're willing to go through the process. Because this whole idea of our young people that want microwave success. And because of the kind of content that we're consuming, and we're seeing people post the successful part of their lives, which is like 0.2%, we think that's what life is about. The moment you understand that nobody is going to show up for you. I mean, we see all these videos, somebody just come and say, I saw what you're doing, I want to give $500,000. Naskito.
So there's a thin line between genius and foolishness. And the difference is success. If you succeed, you're a genius. If you fail, you're very foolish. The people who have succeeded doing audacious things were not sure they would succeed. They just had self-belief. And they might have failed several times in other endeavors, but kept going. So I would say that, you have to be willing to be a fool to succeed.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to be ridiculed and to fail, it's very difficult to attain great success. So I would say a few things to what you have spoken, and I find it very inspirational, what you have shared. One of them is that it's important to read books because some people have not also been exposed to courage. And so they don't understand what it is to be courageous. They've been taught, the government, everybody, victim mentality. How do you come out of it? Find other people who have gone through suffering and difficulty and adversity and have succeeded, and read what they have, gone. Follow people like that. Then get up, get dressed, and show up. And then another thing is, what do you have in your hands? Whatever it is, whatever cards life has dealt with you, play them.
I saw the thread, I saw the Twitter post, and I saw a lot of the reactions. But what's jumped out at me, as these things always do, is most of the people who responded with good stories are people who have high agency. And there are three things that go into high agency. There's that sense of agency, there's self-efficacy, And then there's locus of control. Self-efficacy is that belief in yourself. And then locus of control is where things align for you. And basically, if you draw a bell curve of all human beings, it's about 1% that all these three things will align for. So if we want to build a society that functions, we need to recognize that it is about 1% of every individual, so in Nigeria's case, 2 million people, that these things will align for. And then, so we need to build a society where the average, who all these three things will not align for, are taken care of. And that, for me, is the biggest failure. Yes, we can, Bright is very right, we don't have to wait for government for everything. One of my favorite series is The Men Who Built America. They didn't wait for government to do things for them. But when they did things for themselves, they had that, Carnegie, for example, had that mindset that, okay, is a benevolent spirit has broken my palm kernels. So it is now time for me to give back to society. And that largely is something that is missing here. Giving back doesn't mean throwing money at people. Giving back could, in short, mainly means, if you want it to be sustainable, influencing political outcomes.
Bigs up to Tosin. She's a friend. Very inspiring, inspirational personality, and and I love the thread. Because it also reminds me of my own personal story. At some point in my life, I walked away from a job in a oil and gas servicing company, and when I did, in fact, one of my senior mentors at that time said, "I must be mad, I must be crazy." But I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew that taking that job was going to distract me from where I wanted to be, and I needed to be in contact with some people, just like you said, that that there's just certain people you needed to be close to, and if I took that job, I was going to go along that. But eventually, I look back and I don't have any regrets. But I had a conversation with my daughter recently, and we're talking about our future. She's finishing university, and she's talking about what she wants to do. And here's this lady that she's talking about, I want to, go into tech. There's some things I want to do. And, I tell people to be audacious. Okay, that's what I tell people. Really, you need to be audacious and all that. And here's this young lady that wants to be audacious. Okay, but then the father in me is saying,
play it safe.
Slow down
with that. Okay, you need to work first. You need to gain some experience. So it's coming to that reality to say, you know what? Be audacious, do this, go out on your dream, be unhinged, but understand that there's a risk that it doesn't work. I'll give you a last example of one of the experiences I had when I was getting into the office of an MD who was about to sack me. I was getting into that office. I knew that I was going to be sacked, and the guy asked me a question, and he said, where do you think you're going to be in the next 10 years? And I replied him,
yes,
exactly where you are sitting. And that was the answer that gave me the job, that kept me on the job.
You might not even get what you desire or what you imagined, but just the process. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't forget the end. Sometimes even the end that you expect, you might get a different kind of end, but that end is still good. At the end of the day, the end is good, but the process is what makes you who you are. So just do it regardless.
Taking ownership begins with appreciating that our actions and even inaction either take us closer to our desired outcomes or further away from them. The choice is ours.
Choices and ownership. What do Nigerian jollof rice and engineering have in common?
I can't wait.
Bright says he may have the answer to this question. Do you?
I think I do.
You think you do, huh? On Friday, September 12th, Nigerians everywhere celebrated as Hilda Baci attempted another Guinness World Record with the largest pot of jollof rice. Once again, our competitive Nigerian jollof was in the news, and we must hail Hilda's courage and determination. She has inspired millions and showcased our culture on the global stage. In the end, the record was certified as successful. A proud moment for Nigeria. Another one for Nigerian jollof. Yay! But along the way, there was drama. At the critical moment, the giant pot collapsed under its own weight. Thankfully, no lives were lost. On that same day, however, in Lagos, same city or same state, a three-story building collapsed in Yaba. 4 people died. Others were trapped and families were thrown into mourning. And this is not an isolated incident. According to Kwam, between January and July last year alone, Nigeria recorded 22 building collapses, 22, and 33 deaths. These 2 collapses, one a pot, the other a building, are linked by the same lesson. Both show the consequences of inadequate planning and the undervaluing of structural engineers. A pot that collapses brings embarrassment and risk. A building that collapses brings tragedy. Structural engineers are the guardians of safety. They calculate loads, stress points, and safety margins. Yet in Nigeria, their input is too often ignored. And when that happens, the results are sadly predictable. The pot collapse was predictable, just as every building failure is predictable. They are not accidents. They are failures of structural calculation. If we want to move forward, we must put engineers at the center of planning, and Kwam must do more than regulate. They must educate the public on why engineers matter and why their voice must carry weight. Hilda's courage brought us pride. The Yaba collapse brought us grief. Both prove the same truth. In Nigeria, without structural planning, even pride can turn to pain. My people, what say ye?
Okay, I'd like to go first. I don't think this is a current advocacy problem. I think it is a regulation enforcement problem and also ownership. I digress. Congratulations to Hilda. She's a superstar. So Guinness World Record in 2 years. I don't know who else has done it. Very much a superstar. A law without enforcement is a suggestion. We have building codes. There are regulations that guide how buildings are meant to be built. There are regulations that guide the kind of consultants that are meant to be on every building project. And then there are certifications you get before you, permits you get before you, because if all these consultants are not, you will not even be able to get the permits. But then people are building without such permits, and there is no one enforcing the situations. So we have an ownership issue and we have a regulation issue. As far as those issues are not solved, we will always find ourselves in this space. For Hilda, the pot breaking up is also an ownership issue. It's also the Nigerian anyhowness. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. You know, we'll get away with it. But there has to be proper planning. There has to be proper conceptualization. We're trying to make this huge pot of rice. What volume of rice can this accommodate? You know, if you're moving it, what is the best way to move it? Again, Nigerian anyhowness.
So I was present at the Eco Hotel that day.
Did you get some jollof rice?
No, I didn't get some jollof rice.
I did actually. I actually ate that rice.
Were you in Lagos?
It's really good. Yeah, I was in Lagos.
Okay.
But the first thing that struck me when I arrived at Eco Hotel was the sheer rowdiness of the crowd.
So planning again.
So again, that speaks to planning. Another thing that struck me when I saw some of the crowd rushing for the food, and I think since Bright chopped some of the jollof, he can tell, was the sheer amount of hunger that is a problem. Now, according to the SBM Jollof Index, your pot of jollof rice for a family of 5 as of June is about 27,528 naira. That's in a country where minimum wage is 70,000 naira. Just one pot of jollof is 27,000 plus. That's a problem. So it gives us an insight into why there was that rush. And it also gives us an insight into the building things. This is the relationship. Because we are so poor that we are always in a hurry to cut corners, which brings us to the lack of law enforcement. Because as Zuma has rightly said, a law that is not enforced is a suggestion. And it brings us right back to rule of law. In Lagos, between 2000 and 2021, there were 167 building collapses, 4.8 building collapses a year. This is Lagos alone. Now we're down to 3 per year. But 3 per year is 3 too many.
You talked about structural engineers.
Yes.
You know, in your advocacy, but I also think that this is more than just structural engineers, because you can also say the same things in finance. You can say the same things in law. You can say the same things in the medical profession. The fact is that Nigerians like to cut corners. So I should go to the hospital to get tested. No, but I'd rather go to the chemist or the nurse beside my house to give me an injection. I should ask a financial advisor, okay, should I invest in that stock or not? Or should I do this investment or not? But no, I'll go and ask my neighbor who will tell me that there's this thing, you just put your money there, in 1 month you get 100%. I should get proper legal advice before I buy that property, but no, I would not. And so you find that, you know, basically in Nigeria, we are very good at not doing the right things. Some time ago, I wanted to do a project in my village. And I started going through, I wanted to, what's the process? Okay, what's the permit? What's this? What is, I was dedicated. And they were looking at me like, this one just come from Lagos. You know, there was that, they were really perplexed that, well, you don't need that one, just start building. Just start.
They will come, you give them.
I said, don't worry, when they come, just find something for them. And I said, no, we're going to go through the process. We're going to get the building permit. We are going to go through all the things we needed to do. It took months to get all those things. That was another problem. Why should it take months to do these things? So this thing, it speaks to all of us. You know, it speaks to all of us. Now, congratulations to Hilda. You made us proud. But at the end of the day, we all should take a moment to ask ourselves that, in what ways do we cut corners?
First of all, shout out to Hilda, because I couldn't make it for. I wanted to go for the event, but I couldn't make it. But
and you got the rice.
My friend
you
that
connected.
went. My friend that went got the rice.
Someone.
This is what we're talking about now. Privilege.
I really wanted to see that right. I wanted to be sure that, you know,
people were fighting.
It's just that everything will enter properly.
People were fighting and you raised your leg and got it.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Anyways, the skills level in Nigeria is acceptable. It's mediocrity, but it's acceptable, because you can't. What are you going to do? You want to fly people from Ghana or from Togo, from Benin Republic, or from India? You have to work with what's available, and this happens because there is no recognition. There is no value that you get from being excellent in the trades. Whether you have 10 years experience or 20 years experience, somebody that started 2 days ago can pull up with a his toolbox and compete with you, and probably even get the job over you because it's cheaper, right? So because there's no reward, people do not see the need to improve. Right? So as long as there's no reward or recognition in the trade space, that's literally what run our entire country. As long as there's no reward or recognition, you can't find people that have the right skill to do the right job.
So, Bright, what you've just said, you kind of underscored my point, because when I was thinking about this, I started from the law, regulation, enforcement. But the truth is, do you really think when Hilda was doing that thing, she realized she needed a structural engineer? That's why I said current should educate. I don't think she knew. She would never have wanted that pot of rice to fall. To fall. If she knew she needed one, she would have gotten one. And so I studied architecture. I have a degree in architecture, and it is in architecture school that I understood what a structural engineer does. I had no idea. When tragedies are predictable, calling them accidents is is not only irresponsible, but it's laying the foundation for them to happen again.
Where we repeatedly abdicate responsibility, no one will do what someone ought to do, and everyone will suffer for it. What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mama. That was Black Eyed Peas back in 2003. And 20 years later, that line still feels like a prophecy. Because sometimes I look around and I wonder, what world are we building? What world will I raise my kids in? We live in an age where fake is the new real. The boys stage an engagement, propose standing. She says no, and it goes viral. Not because it's love, but because it's content. The young woman gets a car from a man, but posts it online like she bought it herself. This is the new currency. Validation, not truth. Fake it till you make it. No, now it's fake it till you lose yourself. Then add to it AI, robotics, and deepfake. You scroll through feeds and don't even know what is real anymore. A new stats showed that 23% of content online are AI generated. And then there's parenting. 12 years old in clubs. Young parents raising kids like their pets or worse, like their playmates. Respect and boundaries are evaporating. Families are cracking at the foundation. But here's what really terrifies me. Our governments are clueless. Across Africa, and especially in Nigeria, the very people who should be shaping policies to protect us are governing blind. They don't understand the speed of technology, the weight of culture, or the chaos of this new world. They go with vibes while the world is shifting under our feet. So I ask myself, what's the next 20 years going to look like? If AI and social media have already turned society upside down in just a decade, what about when my children come of age? What will be left for them? This is not just a cultural crisis, it's a leadership crisis. Government must wake up. We need policies that match this time. Digital literacy, family support, value-based system, protection for the next generation. Because if we keep normalizing this abnormal, if we keep raising children in chaos, if our leaders keep sleeping at the wheel, then the world we hand over would not be worth inheriting. So I ask again, what's wrong with the world, mama?
Fake news has always been a tool that politically connected elites use to advance their own interests. What is changing now is the method of delivery. And where I worry is, geopolitically speaking, we in this part of the world, we're at the bottom of the food chain. We will be victims. That's my own worry. But the fact that there's fake news and all of that, I don't worry about that intrinsically, because I know that throughout history, and I could give you other examples in other parts of the world. The American Revolution, where the Americans eventually kicked out the British. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, the rest of them, they used fake news.
I believe that what is needed is the courage to be different. Families are facing an onslaught. There's an onslaught on family values and the family unit. Just as it is, people are trying to redefine what it is and what the basic belief system should be. And these are, in many ways, calculated, actually even propaganda, calculated campaigns. And so what do you do? I'm a parent. My children are between the ages of 24 and 18. So they're kind of at the center of these changing dynamics. And I think the first thing is to believe when you see something and it looks like it's dangerous, even if everybody else is saying it's okay, trust your instinct and trust your guts. And try to spend more time with your family, like isolate them a little bit, so that you create an environment that's like a cocoon where you imprint on them, you teach them certain values, and keep them away enough. It doesn't mean they're separated, but there has to be enough to reinforce. Limit their engagement with social media and certain things for a long period until their values are formed, or as long as you possibly can. And then there's this other thing. Find other families that have like values and try and work with them. So that's where your children can go for visits, play dates, different things. So they are reinforcing that world that you're building for your children.
Like Sheta said, social engineering is not a new concept. The elites are always going to use it to control the masses. But what is a recent concept is the erosion of family values, and it is disheartening. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to someone I know was like, oh, she's taking her kids to do karaoke in a club. These kids are less than 10-year-olds. And I had to pause. I'm like, oh, would I like my kids to go? My kids are older. My kids are 13 and 15. You know, and I had to pause like, wait, you're taking the kids to the club? She was like, no, a lot of people wouldn't be there. I just feel like, I was like, no, if you want to do that, you should get a boombox, let them do karaoke at home. I really don't see any reason whatsoever for you to take less than 10-year-old kids, you know, to the club. So, and she's not doing it. She was coming from a position of, yeah, she didn't mean anything. She literally couldn't see anything wrong with it. Like you said, you need to be the loudest voice in your child's head. And you have to consistently talk to your children and emulate the values you expect from them, because as always, children learn from doing. Because when you're doing something and saying something else, it creates a dissonance in their head. Like, okay, you keep saying we should not lie, but every time you're lying to us. As a parent, I'm scared. Like, at every point in time, like this morning, I went to my daughter's room 3 times. And all the times I saw her, she was on the phone. The point I'm like, okay, so I'm just glad you're going back to school, you know, over the weekend, and then we'll get a break from this whole thing. What precisely are you watching? And then it's one random YouTube videos about random things. Like, this is brain rotting. You know, and I'm still trying to be the cool mom at the same time, but it bothers me greatly. Like, okay, I'm just glad that, okay, we will not be having this digital thing in a couple of days. But
parenting is one of the most difficult things to do. You know, because here you have these human beings that you are responsible for, but they are their own self-agent. No matter how you try to key them into a particular line, they will still do what they want to do. And so we are challenged by it, but we're once teenagers. Yeah. We're once kids as well. And we also once rebelled against our parents and our people because we felt that they were not
cool enough,
you know, in tune with the times. And we wanted to do certain things, you know. We wanted to use the Walkman when they wanted us to watch big screens. We wanted to do things differently. And so over time, what I've seen is that it's almost like it's a losing war. Yes. As long as humans will innovate, there will always be the opportunity to have all these cultural revolutions that are more modern. And that's where I have a concern with AI, where AI is going. And those concerns also stems from the fact that from time, regulation always lags behind innovation. For me, it boils down to parenting. That's what I wrote there. I said, look, regulation will always be behind. We will always struggle to be able to get ahead. But at the end of the day, what matters to the child is the examples he sees in the home. And this is how I say it. I say that there's no way my son will grow up tomorrow to start beating his wife if I'd never beat his mom.
The difference is there's addictive influences in the formative years of children on a grand scale, which changes their behavior, their psyche, and their brains. That's number one. The second thing is there's a decline in the influence of the parents because of this addictive influence that is coming in. So you have your child, they're inside your house, but they're influenced by so many other things for so many hours. And it's an addictive way where it's difficult to control, where they will lie, they will hide, not because you have not trained them, but because something is messing with their brains.
Your responses shows that there is a disconnect on what is really, really happening. Because the parents that we have now are 30 years old. They're parents.
Yeah.
Most of them were born with social media time. the reference that he made about history, those are different times. There's certain rules that would apply, and then it doesn't even go as far as, getting everybody to understand what that is. But right now, we are creating the rules as we go. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different timeline. You guys have no idea what AI is doing.
I do.
Like, no matter how, you said something which is incredible. Your voice needs to be the loudest voice. It can't.
That's what I'm saying.
It cannot.
Yeah.
They spend more time on these devices. They spend more time, even if they don't spend time on the devices, they spend more time conversing with their peers that consume the content.
Right, but the challenge...
It is a whole different world. Right. A 17-year-old kid is worth $5 million. What do you think is going through his mind? Right, so I think we need to really understand. We need to unlearn what we think we know about the world and start relearning what this new world is like, so that we can start preferring solutions. But go ahead.
Take us back to the conversation I was having with Chita earlier. Like, the world as we know it has changed, and it's never going to come back.
Well, we have been presented with a roadmap, and we either take the road less traveled, or we better keep our complaints to ourselves. When the predictable occurs, which road would you choose? It starts by joining us at the table to tackle the issues that matters to all of us. Till next time, it's goodbye from all of us.
Goodbye.
Namaste.